Hi, and welcome to Something Great, a show where we discuss communities, the people who are in them, the people who lead them, and what keeps them vibrant and healthy. I'm your host, Brittany. I'm the Chief Discovery Officer, and I'm excited to chat with you today. Today, we're speaking with guest Megan Reno. Megan graduated from the Idaho State University College of Technology Cosmetology program in 2004. She felt an instant passion for the beauty industry and knew that she had found her lifelong career path the moment she began her formal education. Her experience in the industry has been expansive, and she is passionate about creating experiences where women feel supported, empowered, and beautiful. She believes she offers more than just lash, brow, and skin services. She offers a place where women experience community over competition and deep human connection, and leave their appointment each and every time feeling refreshed and validated. Megan and her husband Dusty opened Pocatello Wellness Clinic in 2019. They now run both sides, the spa at Pocatello Wellness Clinic and the medical clinic. We are so excited to speak with Megan today. Hi, and welcome to Something Great, powered by Liiingo. I'm Brittany, and my co-host today is Clayne. Clayne, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Clayne Lambert.
And we are here with our fabulous guest, Megan Reno. Megan, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Megan Reno. I am the owner of the spa at Pocatello Wellness Clinic and the medical clinic, Pocatello Wellness Clinic. So we have two businesses wrapped into one, and I am thrilled to be here today.
Megan, we are super excited.
And as a quick disclaimer, just to cover anything, and my work at Idaho State University, I have worked with Megan as a consultant in our cosmetology program, so I just want to make sure that that's out there before we get too far.
And it just further qualifies Megan as a truly incredible person who's helping at ISU because she's so talented. Thank you for that, Clayne. We're going to dive right into our icebreaker questions so that we can get down to the serious fun stuff. And I'll start us off, and then we'll go back and forth. There's only about 10 questions.
Okay.
First one is, you're at an Airbnb and it's raining outside. Do you choose a book, movie, game, or nap?
Book, hands down.
Okay.
On Audible, 2 times speed probably, but it's a book.
Which then leads us to what would that book be?
Oh, anything in the self-help, self-improvement category. I mean, my book list is pretty long, so I can't narrow it to just one. Creating a Story brand is what I'm reading right now. So.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It is. It's a great one.
Yeah.
What goes into your favorite ice cream? Peanut butter, marshmallows, chocolate, strawberries?
Plain and boring vanilla.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm the vanilla type.
I like it.
Okay. Mountains or ocean?
Ocean.
Have you ever had a crush on a fictional character?
Oh, that is a hard question. I don't think I have. And my husband might listen to this, so I don't know if I should admit it.
You can always say Mr. Darcy from one of the Pride and Prejudice episodes, and you'd be totally
default,
covered.
Classic. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, you're
Love
covered.
your answer. There we go.
Favorite time of year?
Christmas.
Okay. Should curling be considered an Olympic sport?
Curling like the weightlifting curling?
No, curling like when they put that little thing across the ice and they're mopping as fast as
I
they
did
can.
see that. I didn't know it had that name.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. If you can make it to the Olympics by something unusual, yeah, I think it's cool.
I just think it helps us all that have dad bods to know that we can still be an Olympian.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Perfect.
Okay. Bigfoot. Yes, no, or maybe?
Yes. And I don't think the podcast is long enough to go into my why, but we'll leave it at that.
I like it. Which decade produced the best music? 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, or now?
It's a tie. Early 2000s or 80s.
Okay.
I like them equally.
Okay. And when you think about those artists, like, you have a top one or two?
I mean, Backstreet Boys. That's probably 90s. So now I'm going out. I just like music, I guess.
That's fair.
Backstreet Boys is one to write home about.
And finally, should the mullet come back?
You know, I'm afraid to answer that because I think my son is sporting one, a variation of one. So I'm learning to embrace it, and I don't know if we have a choice. It's back.
It's coming. It's coming. No matter how we feel about it, it's coming back. All right. So now we get to get into the real meat of things. And this is one of those times where we get to talk to a professional and we get really excited about it. Clayne, do you want to start us off?
I'd love to. Now, it might be a little strange for a guy to be talking about this, but in my professional career, I supervise a cosmetology program at Idaho State University, so I've got a little bit of a window into this. How would you describe working in this industry in terms of working in a community with other practitioners?
In health and beauty specifically.
It is honestly for me exhilarating and rewarding. I think ultimately we go to school, we attend the cosmetology program or the aesthetics program, learning a skill and a trade, and what we really need to really fully embrace and understand is that we are learning how to have a human connection, because that's at the end of the day what we provide our people. People think that they're paying for eyelashes or they're paying for a facial or for a haircut and color. And I think more than that, they are. I mean, you have to be good at it, right? You can't do a total botch job or people won't come back. But what I think people come back for time and time again is that feeling and relationship and that human connection that's created in the treatment room or behind the chair. We had just today, real life experience, had a sweet client tell us that there's nothing her lash artist doesn't know about her that her parole officer doesn't know too. So she's like, we tell our people I tell our lash artists everything, because it is more about that human connection. So I can be the best artist in Pocatello, in Southeast Idaho, in the nation at lashes, but if I haven't learned and really truly appreciate the human connection, it isn't going to sustain what we do in this industry.
I know that women who work in male-dominated industries have a difficult time. What's it like working in a female-dominated industry? Is it hyper-competitive? Do you build each other up and just be like, we're not queens unless everybody's a queen? Like, tell me about those feelings within your community.
I would say yes to both. I think that there are people that exist in the community right here in Pocatello that do feel that really hyper-competitive vibe, that they feel like there isn't enough. They have more of the feeling of scarcity and we have to compete versus that feeling of abundance. But I can tell you right now, I can think off the top of my head, multiple people that are in the industry here in Pocatello that I 100% feel community with. And we offer the same services, and we are in, essentially we have clients that are trying to choose my studio over another girl that does the exact same thing. And we still have weekly and consistent conversations on how we can be better. So I think it exists, and I think whatever one you feed is where you find yourself. So if you find yourself feeding on that feeling of scarcity, then it exists more. But if you find yourself seeking and wanting the best, we all can succeed. There's more than enough room in this community. I think you can find yourself there. So I'd say yes to both of those questions.
That's really insightful.
So, and this kind of builds off of that is that, there's a lot of preconceptions and stereotypes when it comes to the beauty industry. What do you think are some of the most compelling false narratives about the beauty industry?
Oh, that is a great question I love to answer. So a little bit of background about who I am and how I got here. In high school, I actually loved school as far as the academic side of things, and I did well, not to be arrogant sounding, but I did do well in high school, and I had academic scholarship opportunity. And I still kind of in the back of my mind, even though counselors and people were pointing me down the direction of, go to a traditional university, get a 4-year education, get your bachelor's degree, I still was curious about, I think that cosmetology sounds interesting to me. But the feelings that I got from people discouraging me from doing that made me kind of second guess, like, does it make me less than if I'm doing that? And I persevered anyways, honestly, from a lot of encouragement from my husband. I did have a full ride academic scholarship, which ISU so graciously applied to the College of Technology, and I was able to still redeem that and use that. And then I thought, great, I've mastered the worst of the battle of trying to tell people that, I'm going to follow my passion and it doesn't make me less than. But I have noticed multiple times, I don't let it bother me, especially now in my older age, but sometimes you tell people that you work in this industry, and I think I've heard people say, not directly to me, but maybe about someone else in the industry, people who do that, it's because they didn't have any other options. And so I think sometimes there is a preconceived notion of, oh, you don't do well in academia, so you do a trade. You do cosmetology school.
Well, you realize I get to hear those who can't do teach. So
it's the same thing, right? It's the
Yeah.
that is the exact same concept and principle. And I have this conversation with my kids all the time. Like, if you can figure out something to do for your work that you're passionate about, you never actually work, right? Like, you get to show up and be present every day and feel this fire of passion. And there are people who, I think, had I followed that 4-year academia path, I may not get to experience the passion that I feel every day showing up to my work. So I think that's a preconceived notion and maybe misconception is, I'll just say it. I am not here because was my only option. I feel like I could have done anything I wanted to. And I still believe that about myself. I'm here because I want to be, and I feel like I have something to contribute. And 4-year degree or not, I feel like I'm making a difference. And at the end of the day, so thankful that my husband encouraged me to just follow that. So
I love your passion, and I can just tell your heart is on fire about what you do, and I think that's great.
Yes.
So, and this idea of talking about the beauty industry, and there's a lot of discussion in society right now about what beauty is and what makes someone beautiful. So now we're just going to ask the professional, right? What does beauty mean to you? When you think about beauty and someone who's beautiful, what does that look like to you?
I feel like coming back to that connection part of things, I feel like people are beautiful in their soul, right? Like the mark of beauty is someone with a really good soul. I feel like, I don't know if you had a chance to read, there's a sign in the bathroom that kind of speaks to that, and it's a long paragraph, so I can't remember exactly, but it essentially talks about a woman who is beautiful for the way she thinks. And that's what the mark of true beauty is. And we have a reminder of that in the restroom here at our studio because I believe that. I feel like the people that I'm most attracted to as a human being, as I'm longing for that connection, are people with a beautiful soul and the way they think. I'm finding more than ever in my life, post-quote COVID in 2020, I wouldn't say I've always been a really narrow thinker, but maybe limited in my lenses. I feel like I'm really starting to embrace and learn. COVID has taught me that. The state of the world right now has taught me that people's different ideas and thoughts and perspectives make them beautiful. And it's so enriching to me as an individual, I may not always agree with you, but I'm passionate about hearing how people think and how did you arrive at that opinion. And to me, that's what makes someone beautiful. And that's ultimately what I get to do every single day, interacting and interfacing with people over and over again. I get to make their lashes look beautiful and their eyebrows, their skin. But more than that, I get to connect with their way of thinking, their life experiences. And that changes. It's changed me. To me, that's what beauty is.
Absolutely perfect. So when you come in to work every day, and you know that you're going to help people feel great about themselves, what would you say your purpose is? Is it like to help magnify natural beauty or to make people feel good about themselves or 1,000 other things? You're clearly very intelligent and you're passion driven, which means there's a reason you're doing this every day. So tell me what it is that ignites that passion. Is it the people?
It's 1,010% without question. The people. And it's such a variety and diversity of people, I think you're attracted, your clientele grows, and you kind of notice that I wouldn't say type of people, but people that you connect with in their soul is sort of who your consistent clientele is over the years. But if you were to look at my clientele, I wouldn't say it's like a cookie cutter specific type, right? Mm-hmm. It's a variety of different people. And I think when I come to work every day, that's what I get excited about, is creating beautiful lashes, which I am. I feel like I'm a master at my technical skill. I'm my biggest critic. I look at my photos and try to improve my skill, and I'm competitive. I want to be the best technical artist in the area, those kinds of things. But more than that, I think I look at my schedule and I think, oh, so-and-so's on the books and she has this going on in her life, or I can't wait to hear this experience that she had, or someone new and I can't wait to meet a new person. So I think that's what makes me most excited. I try to teach my students that human, I keep coming back to that phrase, that human connection is ultimately what makes me passionate and what gets me up and lights me on fire every day to come here to the studio.
One of the things that you're saying that I find interesting is that, the way you're describing your interaction with your clientele is, and I don't know that I would necessarily use the same word when I talk about my students, But I think that most of us, we find that place where we can interact with people in a setting that makes us comfortable.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all really looking for is we all interact with people. Every job that you can think of, unless you're like in a remote weather station in Alaska, or on a fire lookout, we interact. And what we're trying to find is the right place or the right setting. So how did you decide that beauty was that for you? And I know you've talked a little bit about it, but, when did you realize that that's really where you wanted to go?
I think I've just always had an innate interest in makeup and all things cosmetology type beautiful. I can say this kind of jokingly, but my mom is not someone who necessarily appreciates or loves all of that stuff on the same level that I do. So growing up, when I wanted to learn how to do makeup, my mom was like, well, why don't you go with grandma to the ZCMI counter and have someone else teach you how to do it? And I would beg, like, can I please go spend some money to get my hair colored? And my mom was like, well, I guess, but it was hard for her to justify. So I think that's honestly partially what inspired me to do it, is having those interactions at the ZCMI counter in Las Vegas with my grandma and getting my hair colored. I thought, okay, I like being here with these people, but I do love like looking at pretty pictures of the beauty industry, Vogue magazines, from 20 years ago or whatever. Social media wasn't a thing, but now it's like I still find myself passionate about scrolling through the pictures of beautiful eyelashes. So that part of the technical skill is still important to me. I'm talking about, all this other really important stuff too, but I think I've just had a natural artistic desire to participate in this industry specifically.
And I was just going to ask about the beauty industry as art and self-expression.
Yes.
And I love that you beat me to it.
Yes.
Does it fill that hole in your soul?
It is totally that way. I feel like, not every single set of eyelash extensions looks exactly the same. And there's something so rewarding about executing the technical components of it that I can take a photo and be like, dang, that is going to be hard to beat. There's not a lot of lashes that look better than that. And then, the personal, I know everyone has their own opinion. You hear the rhetoric or the narrative, I guess, on social media. I've heard this about women without a fresh, without makeup versus with makeup. You hear men say, I love the way you look naturally. And that's great. I have no problems with that. But there is an artistic component of the face being a canvas and technique of makeup and eyelashes and hair and just, composing that piece of art. Yeah, 100%. I feel like it is an expression of artistic qualities.
The thing that you put forward and the idea that makeup, it's wonderful. I have a husband who tells me he likes the way I look without makeup.
Most husbands say that, I'm finding.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's something to be said about my self-expression.
Yes.
And what I feel like.
Yeah.
In the way that I put makeup on, that it's not for somebody else. It's for me.
Exactly. I love it when women come in and say, oh, such and such a partner, husband, boyfriend, whatever, doesn't really want me to get this done. And I'm like, oh, girl, we are going to make sure that you love it, because I think it's an individual, personal thing. And people do it we do it, right, for the praises of other people sometimes, but I don't think that's the most important reason we do it. It's because it helps us feel a little bit better about what we see in the mirror.
Yeah, and I think that you see this evolution, of attitudes about health and beauty, that, there was this kind of counter reaction of this as being artificial, or people are being, imposed by a certain, women are being forced into these stereotypes and things like that. And I think that we're starting to see the growth of this other perspective, which is I'm making an informed, intentional choice.
Yes.
And that I'm not necessarily doing this because this is what society is telling me I have to do.
Right.
But I'm starting to feel more comfortable in expressing and finding what works for me to make sure that my outer expression mirrors my inner expression of who I am.
Absolutely.
And I think that you're seeing that in men as much as in women. And you're starting to see the growth of a male beauty, health
absolutely.
and beauty industry that, as masculinity, I think, has evolved, this growth of men realizing, hey, I can do this too. That health and beauty is about matching the interior and the exterior.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. And I feel like it's no different than the question you asked me in the beginning, what type of ice cream do you like, right? It's what is your flavor? And we all have different preferences, and we all see through a different lens of what is beautiful. And if mine is a face full of makeup, then that's great. It is an individualized thing. I agree. And I also agree about men finding their way in this industry too. I think men coming in and getting injections. My husband is a nurse practitioner who works in the medical side of the clinic, and we offer those. And it used to be maybe years ago that we would never even have a conversation in Pocatello, Idaho, of all places, about men getting injections. And that's absolutely not the case anymore. So I love that. I love what you said. I think it's very relevant.
We can tell that you have a very business-oriented, brilliant mind. So what we're going to do is take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk to you about your entrepreneurial spirit and about this business that you've started and where you're heading with it.
I love it.
If you've ever wanted a backyard flock, now's the time. It's Chick Days at the feed mill. From now until May, you can find chicks in all shapes and sizes. Chickens, quail, chucker, and even pheasant. With their super helpful staff and store full of everything you need, there's no better place to find your new feathery friend than the Meridian Feed Mill. See you there.
And we're back. We're so excited to start to talk to Megan about what it's like to build a business. And I'm going to let Clayne start this discussion off.
I've got to be honest, the thought of creating your own business from scratch is incredibly intimidating, just from a mental exercise. What made you decide to take that leap?
I think it's something that was in my soul, to be honest with you. I had worked as an employee for years and years, and I feel like I was a good employee to an extent, but then I also feel like I wasn't always a good employee because I just had so many ideas and passion, and I just always had this yearning, I think, to be like, what would it be like if I could call the shots? I know that sounds really terrible when I say it like that, because even as a strong, powerful person, you need to be able to be a part of a team and to maybe just contribute ideas and lead and follow. But I do think that everybody's kind of born maybe with a little bit of that fire and need. I sometimes hire employees in my studio and in my business that I see that passion, and I am at a point in my company and my career where I can just be like, okay, I'm gonna tag that beautiful soul who I see the entrepreneurial spirit, which I love being part of my team, but I'm gonna also embrace and support the fact that there may be one day they want to leave and try it on their own, because I see myself that way. I can think of 2 specific employees that I've had who have left to do their own thing, and I made the promise to myself that I would just encourage it, even though as devastating as that is when they have contributed so much, because you can't really argue with the fact that sometimes it's just in your soul. And it's true, it is daunting, and I didn't really know how I was going to do it. I just had to take that leap and say, I think I would always wonder if I didn't try. I think that's what ultimately it was. As overwhelming as it was, and I didn't maybe know the taxes and all the logistics of all the important things you need to know, that brain exercise, like you called it, it is exhausting. But I think I just didn't want to get to the end of my time in my professional career and wonder, what if I had actually done that? So yes, exhausting, agreed. I didn't know all the answers. I didn't have a plan, but it was just enough fire and passion to dive, I think.
I'm inspired by the fact that because you're an entrepreneur, you have chosen to enable other women to take their entrepreneurial fire and run with it. That's a really unique.
It's hard. It is hard. And I'm still in the process. I will tell you, I have approached a few different strategies for compensation and creating the team environment. There are a lot of different ways to compensate in the beauty industry, and I've tried them out. And I would say I haven't quite been able to nail the one thing that's perfect. I have an idea and a vision, and I hope that I find it soon. But it is an interesting thing. You have to create in this type of business a way to keep your people hungry, but keep them wanting to be part of the team, right? Like I say, like I talk tough, like I do encourage that, and I did want them to go and explore. But wouldn't it be perfect and magical? I feel like I'm on the brink of it. Just little teaser there, little spoiler alert. But wouldn't it be perfect and magical if I could find something and a way to compensate and keep my entrepreneurial fire-like spirits passionate here instead of feeling like they have to go out and do that on their own. So I appreciate the compliment, but I also feel like, in the back of my mind, I still haven't quite found the right way to make it so people never want to leave me. Because you want to encourage those fire people too, you know? So it's been a catch-22 because I do want to see people succeed outside of here, but I'm like, I feel like I want to create something that's unique and individual where we can have this massive growth that we all get to share that pie.
It's incredibly admirable. So along with this, and I know because I have a business partner and we started our own business, it can be incredibly difficult for women to be taken seriously as entrepreneurs. Really, really hard. Have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I do think, I don't know if I have always chosen to believe it was because of my gender. I think I sometimes unintentionally blame it on maybe what we were talking about previously, more my industry specifically. But I will tell you, as we have been diving deeper into the medical side of things and my husband's side of the business, the wellness clinic, I have put on the hat and I've tried to figure out things on the back end of the clinic that aren't as passionate for me and inspiring, but things like insurance and boring stuff like that. I do sometimes think that it is difficult to command that presence with my background. You know, I haven't taken a formal course on insurance or don't have a formal degree as a medical practitioner. But I do have access to a lot of learning to figure out what the business needs from me on the back end. So I guess maybe I've chosen to be naive if people have tried to put it on a gender thing and I've blamed it on more of the piece of paper and letters behind my name. Mm-hmm. But I do think I've chosen to ignore it a lot. I think you have to. You have to just be like, that's you. That's your opinion. Let me show. I'm competitive enough that if anyone has any kind of doubt, it just fuels me. I just want to show them that I can do it.
So this kind of gets back a little bit to when you were getting started and that you focused on, I have this passion, and if I don't explore this, the regret would be just so intense. What kinds of recommendation, having gone through this yourself, and you just talked about how, look, I don't have the piece of paper, or I might not have taken the course. How would you recommend other people down the road navigate that? Do you think that find your picture, find your passion and go? Or do you think that, having gone through it myself, man, I maybe could have done a little bit more training and that might have paved the road a little bit better? What do you think? How
I feel like that's a really interesting conversation. I don't know that I have a real definitive right or wrong in that, but I do feel like sometimes my stubbornness and just trying to figure it out cost me a lot of time and money. And so if you do just invest in the course or the piece of paper, hopefully, that can maybe save some of that. But on the flip side of that, trying to just muddle through and figure things out in the messy, I think really refines you. That refiner's fire that has built me as to who I am. I heard a podcast mention yesterday this book I haven't read yet, so I probably shouldn't even say it, but I'm going to say it. And it's called The Fragile, what is it? Oh gosh. Anti-Fragile. Did you hear that yesterday in the podcast?
Yes.
And the concept of that thought to me has resonated. The title of the book alone, I haven't even read the book. I ordered it on Amazon today. But the anti-fragile mind and the concept of there are a few things in life that only improve and grow stronger being under stressor. Muscles was mentioned, bones are mentioned, and then humankind. So speaking to your question, I feel like having gone through and muddled things, it makes me... the process has made me who I am. And another thing, I spoke with a business person that I know the other day, and we were talking about medical insurance specifically, and she's like, oh my gosh, why don't you just hire that? You don't need to deal with that kind of stuff. And I said, that's my eventual goal, but something I've learned in business, that if I don't at least learn enough to speak the language, it's easy to get screwed. Really, I hired a marketer one time for $6,000 who presented the most beautiful opportunity in marketing that I thought this is what my company needs. But I didn't speak all the KPIs and numbers and all of that. I just trusted, I'm hiring you to do it. And I felt like on the back end, there was no delivery. And I felt like, oh, that was such a valuable lesson. I needed to learn those key performance indicators to hold them accountable, even though I am the person that hired and I'm, the administrator of this project. If I can't speak to it, then how do I hold the people accountable that I've hired to do it? So I don't know. I guess maybe talking it out loud, I might even lean towards figure it out for yourself, because it's so valuable in your company to understand all the mess in the back end. And it's better when you do grow. I mean, the eventual goal is to automate, right? A lot of parts of your business you want to automate. But it's, I think, difficult to hire that out and get it automated if you don't understand all the workings behind it. So,
well, and the harder you work, I think the more you love your final
yes,
product.
True.
And this has been, I'm sure, a massive trip for you. And as you've
I
done
love
it,
that.
what's keeping you passionate about this? Because there have, and maybe I'm wrong, but I know on the hardest days in a business, you're like,
oh yeah,
maybe I hate this.
Oh
like,
yeah,
maybe it was wrong.
Oh yeah. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend like those days don't exist. That is so true. There are days you wake up and you just think, what am I doing this for? Maybe I do want to be an employee again. And I guess it just comes back to, I think something that we all crave as humans is, we've been talking about this, is human connection. But I think another maybe subconscious yearning and craving is self-mastery and self-improvement. Okay. Maybe not everybody experiences that, because there is such thing as mental health, and but I think if we're healthy in our minds and our goals, I think we all yearn for self-mastery. I think it's maybe more atypical, and not that there's, there may be something imbalanced if you don't yearn for that. So not that those people that are listening, if you're like, I never have had a desire to be better, I don't think that's a thing. I think most people do have a desire. So I think self-improvement and that human connection are just two things. And so for me, an actual tactic and strategy that I find that I utilize is just keeping my list of books long, my Audible, having that community. I have one particular friend, I Marco Polo about business on a regular basis. And even if it seems like we have nothing to talk about, because I am kind of in the bottom of the S curve, business is S curves. And when I'm kind of hanging out in the bottom, which we all do, sometimes it's just a matter of talking to the right person or listening to the right podcast. So I think it's a forward motion of that drive for self-mastery that gets me reignited. And that's a very valid point, and I appreciate you speaking to that, because the reality is it isn't exciting. It's so fun to do this podcast, and so you're feeling this fire and passion from me, but that is not my everyday. I mean, the reality is there's still payroll and taxes and that kind of business that doesn't light my soul on fire, and it has to be done. But I love the process of getting better and knowing that, the sky is the limit. I think that's what keeps me excited.
So business is like a good relationship then. There's enough passion to keep you going through the moments when there's not a lot of passion.
And then on top of that, in business, you throw your husband into the as a business partner?
Yes.
I
talk with you about
I was about to say.
It is a lot. It is a lot sometimes. Yeah, exactly how you described it. Really powerful days, and other days you're like, we love each other. I think there are days we, rightly so, don't really like each other. Normal. I think that's fine.
It's interesting because I was about to ask you about that, and I think that if one thing about COVID for many people was that, especially at the beginning, everybody to a large degree were forced to work from home. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the concept of work-life balance, of separation, of realizing that I'm around a person that I normally see only 1/3 of the day, I'm now seeing them all the time, really changed our perceptions of what work is and what careers are. Mm-hmm. And so
what our partners are.
What partners are.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so I think it would be interesting for you to perhaps talk a little bit about, especially as an entrepreneur, the success of your business doesn't land on anybody else in the end but you. Mm-hmm. Do you ever get to turn that off or set that aside, or is it something that is in your head all the time?
Yeah, I think that's a really valuable question. It's something we explore together in our marriage all the time. I think there are times at dinner where the kids are rolling their eyes like, seriously? You guys clocked out however many hours ago and we're still talking about it? So I think it takes conscious effort for us to really set our boundaries and try to compartmentalize different times of the day with, what's appropriate. And of course, we have work conversations at home. It's unavoidable. And we're not perfect at this, but we have in the past tried to say, okay, we're going to dinner tonight and it's just a date. Or we're going to dinner tonight and it's a business meeting, and trying to really differentiate those compartmentalize those time frames. I also really admire and respect Brendan Burchard. I'm not sure if he's in the self-mastery, self-help kind of space. And in one of his books, Habits of Highly Effective People, I think that's what it is, so correct me if that's wrong, but he talks about really taking time in your car often and taking those 3 deep breaths before you enter the space and realize you've got to bring your best mom to the table when you walk through those doors, or you got to bring your best business owner to the table when you walk. And it's exhausting sometimes, to change the hats. But he talks about his strategy and how he's found, and I've been able to apply that too. But I think it's really kind of defining those spaces, and we need time that we're like, okay, we're not talking about business until Monday. And Dusty and I see eye to eye in a lot of things, but the passion that you feel from me, he also has passion. So you can imagine that sometimes it gets really heated. It works for us. And I hear people say all the time, it's probably one of the most frequent comments I hear people say in regard to our business is, I could never work with my husband. And I think that's probably true for a lot of people. So there's something really unique about our relationship, and I probably can't name it. And we're not perfect at it. I mean, there are days where I'm like, I am just going to roll over. I will see you in the morning. But then we have really magical moments too in business together. So
if I can, because I'd like to explore this a little bit more. So when I was working on my PhD, I was still working full-time. And it was only towards the end of that experience that I really started to perceive that while I might have, quote-unquote, submitted the work and I'm getting all the recognition, there was an incredible price that was paid by my wife and my kids. And you know how you were talking about going to dinner and realizing, wow, she's not my dissertation director. She has she has suffered so much in terms of all of these things. And how do you address that? How do you address the price that your circle of support, because it's not just family, but it's friends, it's acquaintances. How do you recognize and acknowledge the investment other people pay, even though they might not get the recognition or the compensation because they're part of this?
I feel like a practice that I try to be better at on a regular basis is that the act of gratitude and expressing it. And so I feel like I, on a regular basis, try to tell my kids, say it, like, thank you for being patient. Tonight I actually have to do this project for work. We'll make up for it tomorrow and go to the movies, or whatever that looks like, or play a game. And so I think sometimes the act of expressing those feelings that you had, recognizing, my wife had a huge part in this and she's over it. Like, she doesn't want to talk about it anymore. I think the act, for me anyways, I feel like the act of saying what you're thinking goes a really long ways, and acknowledging my circle of influence, of course, beyond just the walls of my home. I've had powerful friends who've encouraged me and wanted me to succeed, and they're so gracious at walking on the treadmill at the gym next to me and being like, what's going on at work? When secretly I'm thinking, they probably really don't care to hear, but they know it makes me happy that they asked. So I think just expressing, even if it's a text, if you think it, try and say it, try and let people know how gracious you are. And so I hope that answered the question that way, but I just think, I have feelings of really deep gratitude a lot, recognizing all the people that have got me and supported me. But sometimes I think just those deep feelings aren't enough. We have to let people know that that's how we feel.
Because there's a lot of sayings, it's lonely at the top, or,
right.
Only so many people make it to the top. It doesn't have to be.
Right.
And it sounds
like I love that.
You're doing it the right way to say, I know that you had a hand in getting me where I am, and I'm so thankful for you.
Yes.
That's really wonderful.
And don't you think sometimes it's like powerful to think of, times where maybe you weren't satisfied with a relationship, maybe as an employer-employee relationship or a familial relationship where you felt underappreciated or underrecognized. And I think if you are reflective about those moments, like, why did I feel that way? And then try to use the reverse, like, oh, it's because they never said thank you, and try to recognize probably all the people around me are having those same feelings if I'm not making the conscious effort to let them know I appreciate them.
I have never found that, people tend to say, well, you have to show confidence. But I've realized that being vulnerable and acknowledging that I have relied on other people doesn't make me weak. It makes me, I have gotten so far because of the support that I've had.
Yes.
It tells me that I was smart to get those people in my circle and pushing in the same direction.
Totally.
And the more that I can acknowledge that, it doesn't make me weak. It makes me stronger to recognize, because I'm going to be able to go to those people again if I'm taking care of those. Like you said, I've got to acknowledge that. I've got to vocalize that. Mm-hmm. Just like I have to water the plants in my office. I've got to water my relationships, because they're what got me here and they're what are going to keep me going.
Right. I love that.
Well, Megan, this is awesome. And we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, I want to talk with you about the future of your business.
Okay.
Where you're heading. Spring is just around the corner. And if you're ready to get out of the house and have an amazing experience, make your way to Idaho Falls Zoo. The zoo reopens April 13th, and all your favorite animals will be on display. We can't wait to see you there. And we are back. One thing, we've talked so much about Megan's business ideals and all of these things, and I have neglected to ask her to describe her business to us. So Megan, can you tell us a little bit about...
So here's the test, right? I got to elevator pitch it and keep it short. So we are a health and wellness clinic that offers beauty services as well. So my background is cosmetology, licensure in the state of Idaho, and then my husband is a nurse practitioner. And so our dream and vision is to bring health and wellness and beauty to the Pocatello community through, I do specialize in eyelash extensions and permanent eyebrows, but I also have a passion for skin. I worked in med spas for years. So I don't love as much the treatment room there. I find a lot more passion in other areas of my business, but I love to hire that and have team members that can provide it so I can refer and talk about it all day. And then Dusty has, I could get on a whole soapbox, so I'll keep it brief about his vision. That is my vision as well in the wellness clinic. We do offer obviously we accept insurance here, but the initial vision was to provide a clinic that sort of cut out that big beast of a monster, the insurance. And I know some people are going to shut off the podcast right now, but sometimes it's a frustrating thing to deal with. And so his vision was to be able, a lot of times insurance tells us that they will pay for something after the person is already sick, right? So it's reactive medicine versus proactive, where often our theories and thoughts are like, let's prevent on the front end wherever we can with different strategies and approaches and services and treatments. So that initial thought was, we want to do more of that and not have the insurance dictate how we approach that side of healthcare. And it's been a really tricky, muddy area to navigate, but we're still moving forward in that vision. So again, health and wellness and beauty clinic. Our favorite tagline that we like to refer to is live your best life. And I think ultimately, if I were to really say what is the mission of what we do, the services that we offer, we do IV vitamin infusions, vitamin injections. Dusty does a lot of hormone therapy treatment to help optimize individuals and their hormones through that mid-season of life where things start to get a little funky. We feel tired and we feel maybe less beautiful and less motivated. And so a lot of the beauty and wellness services that we offer help to rebalance and reignite that, ultimately to help our patrons live their best life. The vision is, if you can visualize with me, is the mom or dad who's exhausted with all of the tasks of driving taxi and doing the bills and the laundry and just not being present. But then all of a sudden, hormones are optimized and IV infusions balance deficiencies, and our body feels its best and at homeostasis. And then all of a sudden, it's like we can enjoy life to the fullest and a little bit better. So I think ultimately That was a really long answer. That was not a good elevator pitch, but that's what we do here.
And that's what we're looking for. Like, we're not in a hurry. We want
Right.
to know what you're doing.
Yes.
So I loved the glimpse into your business.
You know, that's interesting because one of the things that Brittany had mentioned that we were talking about health and beauty outside of the podcast, and this sense that the culture that we live in today sometimes comes across as that we're supposed to be our best in every single thing in every single way all the time.
Right.
And that, success as an entrepreneur means not only do you have this fully functional and fully realized dream that is producing abundance and riches, but then you're able to come home and that you are able to have a fully realized relationship with a spouse or partner or whatever, and that you are the perfect mentor for your children, and that the home is perfectly maintained and the meal is pristine and all of these kinds of things. And that so much of our exhaustion can come from trying to live up to that ideal. And so I appreciate the reality that there are things that can complicate that beyond just motivation.
Yes.
It's not just you're not being lazy, and it's not just because if you really were motivated, you would be spending 2 hours at the gym, and you would be. And
exactly.
So go into that a little bit.
Yes. So, I mean, this could go so many different directions. But, I mean, ultimately, remember back to biology school in high school or college, the body is always seeking homeostasis, right? Like, it needs to be balanced in order to function and perform at its best. And there are so many outside stressors, all the things you just mentioned, that create issue or lack of homeostasis and balance in our body. And sometimes I look at myself often in the mirror and think those things you just said, like, oh, I'm not performing enough, and if I would just do this. And you know what? Sometimes it's a matter of balancing with a vitamin and trying to prevent disease. That disease is caused after we have neglected for time and time again, and we've let ourselves get to the point of exhaustion and all of those things. And so here at our clinic, we do offer a comprehensive plan. Meeting with Dusty, he's very in depth at evaluating your levels in your blood work and really determining, there is a good possibility that your pure exhaustion is not because your to-do list is 29 miles long, which is probably true, but there's other added components to the reasons why you're feeling that lack of joy and whatever in life. Hormones are a big one. Vitamin deficiency is another big thing that we address, and your body is able to absorb a lot more efficiently a vitamin via IV versus an oral vitamin, so that's an awesome option. And then even something as simple as just coming to get a facial and that human touch and quiet time and just laying down for an hour can be super revitalizing and give you energy too. So I feel like we do have a comprehensive approach. And Dusty does practice Western medicine. He prescribes drugs because obviously there are other things that we could go even deeper into, mental health and imbalances in our brain. That's real. And I think we're more accepting and appreciative of and giving where credit's due, especially since COVID, and recognizing mental health is a real thing. But aside from always the medical approach, he does offer a line of vitamin and supplements, and he's always great to offer, more of a holistic approach before we just dive right into medicine. And medicine has its place, and we believe that medicine is appropriate. But sometimes you can accomplish balance in your body without medicine and by trying some other techniques. So that's our, I think, ultimate mission, is to be able to offer options for people.
And I love the coupling in your business between health and beauty. Because ultimately, when we hear things about a healthy glow, right?
Right.
Ultimately, hopefully, in our society, a healthy body is a beautiful body.
Right.
So I really love that you couple that here in your services. We've had conversations outside of this podcast. You are ambitious.
We have a lot of dreams. Probably for me as an entrepreneur, one of the most rewarding things I do is I get to be a visionary. I love that. I love the creative process. I love the dreaming. And yeah, we do have some exciting things on the forefront. I feel like I always perform better. I'm a weird personality type. I perform better with more on my plate, which is sometimes unhealthy, and I'm learning to not be like that. But I think if we were to just be like, okay, we've made it where we are, I wouldn't find the same fulfillment. So I think I'm always going to be looking for what is the next thing. And something really exciting that we have in the very near future coming is being able to take our IV vitamins mobile and taking those to people's homes. I keep referring to lessons we've learned from COVID, right? But I think we all have. It's hard to ignore that. But I think realizing that there is a place in the market for people to want these services from home is very valuable. People that still have a fear of going out, which I think is valid, whether or not, whatever side of the fence you're on, people have their reasonings why they feel fear and anxiety about going out, or maybe they're immunocompromised or someone that they love is. So bringing IV vitamins to home is something that's really exciting for us.
Transformative, because even beyond the health reasons, I mean, I was at one time a mom of 4 little children. Leaving my home was not a real
not an option, really. It's not even in the plan, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Some other ideas that we're currently executing but trying to make it and better and improve is we offer membership options for both our spa consumer and the clinic consumer, trying to just offer to people financial discount for partaking in many things that we offer, because we ultimately feel like you will see maximum benefit by doing multiple things versus just one, whether it be in the beauty side or the wellness side. And so we want to incentivize that. We're really passionate about doing multiple IV vitamins versus just one, or doing multiple chemical peels on the spa side versus just one. And so we've tried to build in that opportunity for people to benefit financially by committing to more services that we have to offer. So we're kind of taking away, I guess, that excuse, for lack of a better term, of, it costs more money. Well, let us give you a financial opportunity to be able to partake for a better deal with our membership. So I think that's also some forward thinking that's beneficial to our consumer.
In terms of being an entrepreneur, and as you kind of built your business and you started to grow, what were some of the tools that you kind of either knew about or stumbled across that you kind of, oh my gosh, this thing has simplified my life, or where has this been all my life? Are there some tools that you have found that were incredibly beneficial to you?
Yes. I don't know if this is exactly what you were asking, but depending on who you have doing your marketing, and I think you always kind of have to have a hand in that as the business owner doing marketing around the building and stuff, but something really specific that I love is Canva. I feel like that's a tool that has really been able to elevate my opportunity to create marketing on the fly here in the business. Maybe some more industry-specific things. I think finding the right software that will run the point of sale part of your business, the appointment and scheduling part of your business, the key performance indicators, so the reporting and numbers part of the business. I think that's probably the most crucial. So I could name those. We use Rosie for our spa side of things, and then an EHR, the electronic health record called Elation. But regardless of your industry, I feel like that's probably one of the most crucial things. Is we can't improve moving forward with any type of decision in our business if we don't have some kind of data to quantify and evaluate and kind of understand why things are or aren't going well. So off the top of my head, I feel like those are probably some of the most specific tools.
I mean, I think my big question is not just what tool,
specifically, yeah,
but where did you find it, or how did you? That I think is as much of a value as the tool itself. Is where do you hear about this stuff?
I feel like good old Google, like a Google search, and then really kind of going through the reviews of how is the software. And I will tell you that I invested some dollars early on in entrepreneur courses. I actually went to an in-person course in Provo, Utah. It was valuable for me. I spent a few weekends there learning from other startups, people who had scaled their businesses to, massive numbers that I was able to learn from. So, and there's more of that now. I think in the last 2 years, you can get online and find a lot of offerings. People are trying to offer marketing online or offering curriculums online. Another, Marie Forleo, I don't know if you've heard of her. She's a female entrepreneur. She has a course that's digital called B School. stands for business school, and I partook of that. It was a little bit of an investment, but it had several modules, and it broke things down. It was generic industry, so it wasn't specific for mine. And she had spreadsheets and lists of different types of softwares and tools. So I would say, just finding that other entrepreneur who's created education that speaks to your soul that you can connect with and try to learn from them. Is that a better answer?
That's exactly what I was
perfect.
looking
It's fantastic. We're actually getting low on time, so I just have 2 final questions for you. Where do you see your company 5 years from now?
It's funny when people ask that, or when I think about that, I don't think I have as much, and maybe this is bad, but as much of a dream and a vision. I don't think I always think of the numbers and the specific KPIs. It's good and healthy, I think, to get that in your mind so you have something to look to. But I think in 5 years from now, my favorite thing to dream and visualize about is a work family that is excited to be here. I mean, I feel like we're creating that now, but something I've always dreamed about being able to do is take my team to some tropical destination and spend a week together, all expense paid. So that's kind of a really specific answer, but I think sometimes your dreams are realized when you're really specific.
You're a dream boss.
Just I want to, and that's what ultimately I think that's a better answer, is being a company that my consumers can't wait to come and be a part of on a regular basis and come be here with us. In addition to that, having my employees continue to feel like they want to be here every day and show up for us. So, but I guess maybe more specifically too is not being in this facility. I love this building, but it is not big enough. And so in 5 years from now, I want to have a very customized, specific building and a bigger staff too. I want to grow our team. So
Okay, so we always like to end our show with something great. That's the title of our podcast. Share with us something great. Give us that kind of close.
I think maybe something great is that now more than ever, I think I have personally realized, and as I think I feel it from my clients and people around me, we've spoken to this a lot recently, or through this podcast, I think, is that human connection is critical, right? I think we all are realizing that, and I think maybe more than ever to realize there's a lot of ick in the world, and I feel like if you focus on that, it can be consuming. But for me, something great is to realize there is equally, if not more, great that exists. And it's in our community on a very local, personal, intimate level. And it's on a bigger level, globally. I think what you want to see is out there. And I think that is something incredible. I'm so grateful in a lot of ways for social media to be able to partake of that and see outside of my little bubble. But I would say that is something great, is knowing that humankind, as bad as things can seem with the narrative that's been present recently, I think there is just as much good, if not more. And I think that's great.
I love it. Thank you so much, Megan. And thank you for helping people to feel better, both about themselves aesthetically and on a health level. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm telling you, this was so fun.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you feel inspired to do something great. And thanks to Liiingo for sponsoring this podcast.
Liiingo is the most effective way to connect with customers in the moment they need you, deepen engagement that leads to dramatic results, and build communities so that your business continues to grow. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or at liiingo.com. See you there.